It's a memory, a scar. It's the kind of chilling whisper that creeps into the quietest corners of your mind, especially when the lights are out and every shadow seems to stretch just a little too far. Have you ever had that feeling, that primal dread that grips you when logic fails and the world you thought you knew unravels? You're about to. This isn't some campfire tale. This is something that happened to people just like us, right outside the familiar glow of Denver, in a place the maps conveniently forget. But before we dive deeper into the darkness, do me a favor. If this story sends shivers down your spine, if it makes you question every creak in your house tonight, then hit that like button. Subscribe for more tales from the edge of sanity, and most importantly, comment below and tell me what's the one thing that truly unnerves you. What's your deepest, most irrational fear? Maybe, just maybe, it's not so irrational after all. It started innocently enough, as all the best nightmares do. Leo and Nora, a couple in their late 20s, utterly smitten and perpetually exhausted by the Denver grind, decided they needed an escape. Not the usual Aspen ski trip or Rocky Mountain National Park hike. No, they wanted quiet, real quiet. The kind of quiet where the only sound is your own heartbeat. They found it on a lesser-known rental site, an old, rustic cabin, described as secluded and charming, nestled in the foothills somewhere west of Pine, deep within Pike National Forest. The photos showed a quaint log structure, a roaring fireplace, an endless forest. Idyllic, right? It'll be perfect, Nora had gushed, tracing the pixelated image of the cabin on Leo's laptop screen. No cell service, no Wi-Fi, just us and nature. Leo, ever the practical one, double-checked the directions. Says it's about an hour and a half drive. The last 20 miles are on a dirt road. Sounds like an adventure. You know that feeling when the city lights fade behind you and the open road stretches ahead? That thrill of freedom, they felt it. But as they drove further, past the last gas station with its flickering fluorescent sign, past the last cluster of houses that looked more like forgotten shacks than homes, a different kind of feeling began to set in. The sky, usually a vibrant Colorado blue, seemed to press down, heavy and gray. The pine trees, towering and majestic at first, started to feel like silent, accusing sentinels. The paved road dissolved into a winding, potholed dirt track, just as the directions promised. But the map on Leo's phone flickered, then froze. Nora's phone, dead silence. No bars, just static in the air. Guess we really are off the grid, Nora attempted to joke, but her voice held a slight tremor she couldn't quite mask. The drive stretched. 20 miles felt like 100. The forest grew denser, the light dimmer, even though it was only mid. They passed no other cars, no signs of life, just an occasional, rusted mailbox leaning precariously, its flag long gone. The air grew colder, charged with a strange stillness. You could practically taste the isolation. Finally, through a thicket of gnarled ancient pines, they saw it. The cabin, it looked different from the photos, older, much older. The logs were dark, almost black with age, and the porch sagged precariously. The windows, small and murky, seemed to stare out like vacant eyes. A single, rickety swing creaked on the porch, even though there was no breeze. "Well," Leo said, his voice flat, "charming it is." They unloaded their bags in a tense silence. Inside, the cabin smelled of dust, damp earth, and something else. Something indescribably musty and ancient, like forgotten secrets decaying in the walls. The air was heavy, the silence oppressive. Every creak of the old floorboards, every rustle of the leaves outside, echoed Unearthingly as Nora lit a fire in the stone fireplace. Leo tried to connect to the cabin's ancient landline, only to find it dead. No phone, no internet, no radio even, were truly cut off. That first night, the sounds began. Soft at first, a rhythmic scratching coming from somewhere outside, directly beneath the floorboards. It sounded too deliberate, too focused to be an animal. Leo went out with a flashlight, but found nothing, just the impenetrable darkness of the woods. Probably just a squirrel, he'd said, trying to reassure Nora and himself. But later, lying in bed, they both heard it again. A whisper just outside their closed window. Faint, indistinct, but definitely there. It sounded like a name being called, distorted, stretched. Nora clutched Leo's arm. "Did you hear that?" He nodded, his throat tight. "Go back to sleep, hun. It's just the wind playing tricks." But neither of them slept much that night. The next morning, the unease only deepened. There were faint, muddy footprints leading from the woods to their porch. Too large for a deer, too small for a bear, and they had too many toes. 5 distinct marks, but then another, smaller, misshapen one beside the big toe on each print. Nora felt a profound nausea. They hadn't seen a drop of rain. "We need to leave," Nora declared, her voice trembling. Now, Leo, though unnerved, agreed, without argument. They packed their meager belongings in a frantic haste. But when Leo tried to start the car, the engine sputtered, coughed, and died. Again and again, panic began to set in. "The car won't start," Leo yelled, frustration giving way to fear. He tried the battery. Nothing. It seemed perfectly fine. Okay, Nora said, trying to breathe. "We walk. We came from the main road. We can walk back." You can imagine the dread, can't you? Stranded, cut off, with that forest pressing in around them. As they stepped onto the porch, a guttural wet gurgle echoed from the woods. It wasn't an animal sound. It was a voice, deep, broken, and close. They froze. The air grew heavy, the silence ringing in their ears. Then, a shadow detached itself from the gloom between the trees. It was tall, impossibly thin, and moved with a jerky, unnatural gait. They couldn't make out features, but they felt its gaze, a cold, hungry stare. "Run," Leo screamed, pulling Nora off the porch. They ran, blindly, through the dense undergrowth, over fallen logs, ignoring the sharp branches tearing at their clothes and skin. The gurgling sound followed them, gaining. They could hear its heavy, dragging footsteps, uneven, getting closer. Suddenly, Nora tripped, tumbling to the ground. Leo spun, ready to fight, to protect her. But then he saw it. Not just it, them. More shadows, slipping through the trees, surrounding the cabin they had just fled. They were converging. A strange, low hum filled the air, like a swarm of angry bees, but deeper, more resonant. A chorus of the guttural gurgles joined the hum. Leo helped Nora up, pulling her into a desperate, renewed sprint. They weren't just running from something, they were running through something. The forest itself felt alive, antagonistic. Trees seemed to shift, branches to snag, roots to trip them. They ran for what felt like hours, their lungs burning, legs screaming just when they thought they couldn't take another step. They burst out of the woods onto a narrow, paved road. A road they didn't recognize, and in the distance, a pair of headlights. They staggered into the middle of the road, waving frantically. The car, an old pickup truck, screeched to a halt. A weathered old man with shrewd eyes peered out. "You too. Look like you've seen a ghost. We just need a ride. Anywhere, away from here," Leo gasped, pointing vaguely back into the trees. The old man's eyes narrowed, a knowing glint in them. He took one look at their disheveled, terrified state, and then his gaze drifted to something behind them in the dark woods. A faint, lingering hum seemed to vibrate in the air. He didn't say another word, just nodded towards the truck bed. They clambered in, collapsing against their meager bags. The old man drove without a word, eventually dropping them off at a small roadside motel far from anything resembling the woods. He looked at them, a strange mixture of pity and warning in his gaze. "Some places ain't meant for city folk," he rasped, then drove off into the night, leaving them alone with their terror. Leo and Nora eventually made it back to Denver. They never spoke of what they truly saw or heard or felt in those woods. They tried to resume their lives, but something fundamental had shifted. The quiet peace they once sought now suffocated them. Every shadow in their apartment seemed to hold a hint of that unnatural thinness. Every distant sound, a low gurgle. Sometimes, late at night, when the city is quietest, Nora swears she hears a faint, rhythmic scratching beneath their floorboards. And Leo, he occasionally glances at the old, cracked screen of his phone, where a single, unread message is stuck in his outbox, dated the day they left for the cabin. It's an email to the rental company. The subject line, "Cabin Inquiry." But the body of the message is blank. He can't delete it. It just sits there, a phantom echo of a trip they should never have taken. And sometimes, when they're alone, they catch a fleeting glimpse of each other's eyes, and they both know. Whatever was in those woods, it wasn't left behind. It's still out there. Or maybe, just maybe, it found a way to follow them home. And it's waiting for the quiet. Waiting for you. It's a memory, a scar. It's the kind of chilling whisper that creeps into the quietest corners of your mind, especially when the lights are out and every shadow seems to stretch just a little too far.